Welcome to the Greater Wealth. Travis Carter here, back again. Backstreet's back, all right. And we got the one and the only, stage right, Derek Whitaker, blueskyfactory.com, blue with no E, doing all your wealth training, education, financial. I don't want to say services because you'll get in trouble for that one.
No, we don't.
But
We
yeah,
give education. We give
financial
education.
knowledge. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it a lot. So Blue Sky Factory, make sure you look them up. I'm pretty sure the website scrolls across the bottom. If it doesn't matter. I'll check it in the comments right now. So Derek, we have a very interesting show for today. We're talking all things New York. You may hear some typing. I apologize. Blue Sky Factory. My typing has gotten so bad lately. Anyway, so check the chat comments. There's a link there to your good old Blue Sky Factory. And also don't forget to look up Derek on the good old YouTube, Facebook, all the places where you get your good audio books. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, let's rock with it.
And we're doing an event this weekend. We're actually doing an event this week, Travis.
I totally forgot about that.
Hey, Derek, yeah, we're doing an event this week.
I'm just got to get the Blue Sky Factory. There it is. So I'm going to chuck your event link in the chat as well. I'll go find that and put it up. Oh, noise. Hey, Derek, I actually might get you to check that one in the chat. I can't find the link, but anyway, doesn't matter. We can always post it later. Yeah. But while you do that, I think we should just jump straight into it because we are a little bit late today. We have a very exciting show. So what do you want to kick it off with?
Well, it's been fascinating to watch the developments that are happening and the reactions that are happening to this appointment of a new mayor in New York City. And what we're seeing here is a lot of controversy because, of course, this person, he's been labeled as a communist by the right in the United States with very socialistic views on how these things should operate. And there's been a lot of comparisons between him and what's been going on in London of late. This is going to be a fascinating case study as pretty much two different cultural systems align. And we're looking at the economic system in terms of the implications of what these decisions will make. So if you haven't heard already, this new mayor has emerged, and Kari Lake, who didn't win that seat as far as Phoenix are concerned, has some really interesting comments and views on this in terms of saying, listen, this wasn't a MAGA candidate that was running. There wasn't a MAGA candidate running in New York City. And why is this a big deal? All right, let's think about this. New York City is one of the biggest financial hubs in the world with the stock exchange there, okay? And not only is that stock exchange massive, but it's a case of there's so many big businesses that have been in New York. It's the financial hub of the Western civilization. And of course, you've got to remember that America is the biggest economy in the world. So this is why this is such a big deal. Let's have a look at Kari's take on this situation.
Welcome. I'm still smarting that you're not the governor of Arizona. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Listen, your thoughts about what happened tonight and what's happening in America.
Well, and having run a couple of big elections and campaigns myself, I understand what it's like to be a candidate and the effort that goes into this. And I predict that you're going to hear from Mamdani. I know you're waiting for his speech. It'll come at the top of the hour when the 11 o'clock news begins. This is, I agree with Senator Santorum. This is not a loss for MAGA. There really weren't any MAGA candidates on the ballot. This is a loss for what used to be the Democrat Party, any semblance of a moderate Democrat. That is now gone. We've seen ushering in of socialism and communism and radicalism, and that's what they're going to get in New York. But you have to respect those two young gentlemen that we just heard in that clip from your reporter on the street. This is a young generation that's looking at the choices in New York. They see a guy wearing a beret who's of a different generation and really never made the waves and never connected with the young generation. They see Cuomo, who was responsible for locking them in their apartments, masking them up, job loss, all those different problems he had with women staffers and women. And they're looking at who do we vote for? And they see a young guy on the ballot who's actually talking about the issues that the young people are facing. They can't afford food. The jobs aren't paying enough. There aren't enough jobs. I mean, he's talking about issues that affect the young voter. And obviously, we all disagree with his solutions. They're going to create more problems. But this is a young generation that has been brainwashed and indoctrinated for so long, and they were given no choices. And their only choice they felt they had was this radical who's going to be now the mayor of New York. And it's a shame that none of these Republicans invited President Trump to come speak. Remember, President Trump sold out Madison Square Garden. He's actually helping to bring back the economy, and it's unfortunate. Not a loss for MAGA. Nobody expected Republicans to really win in these blue areas. It is a huge loss, I agree, for Chuck Schumer and the old guard of the Democrat Party. I predict two things. I predict what's left of the moderate Democrats will be switching over and becoming Republicans, and I predict there's going to be a mass exodus in New York of the taxpayers, of businesses and companies who don't want to be taxed to death and destroyed by these policies.
Really interesting perspective that Kerry puts on that video in terms of what's happening. Of course, you've got to remember who is from New York. Well, Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, is a man who really built that in the real estate industry big time, that city. Of course, you've got the Trump Tower, which is very, very famous, and where he announced his political election aspirations back in 2015 before the 2016 election. So this is really telling in terms of going back to the heartland of where the current president actually comes from. And you're seeing lots of expectations that big taxes will come in. And this is quite telling. And already we're seeing many, many companies move out of New York City and going over to places like Texas, where I would argue that a wealth transfer is actually occurring. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, is for many who don't know, there was a stock exchange set up in Texas a couple of years ago, and a lot of the companies are relocating themselves to Texas. I was actually doing some research before this, and the tax breaks for businesses in Texas are a lot easier than, of course, New York. New York real estate's gone through the roof. So just sort of rentals alone from doing square meterage is just crazy for businesses. But the taxes involved in New York City are a lot higher as well. So a lot of businesses have gone, well, why don't we move it to Texas? And what's happening is, and we'll get into that a little bit later, where this money is moving to and how it all looks. But it's really fascinating, this case study of what's going on here in the United States.
One thing I always remember, I can't remember if it was in the 2016 campaign or the 2024 campaign for Trump. He was talking about for every one policy they're bringing out, they want to remove four. They were saying that they're up to 15 at the moment, but he was saying one of the biggest problems he had building Trump Towers and doing all the other property development was getting through the red tape. And something that I do know of is in Texas, the amount of red tape you have to go through to get anything done, especially around business, so much easier than what it is in New York. So I'm not surprised that companies are going there. I was doing some good old ChatGPT research before the previous show we did on this one, and they were saying that even prior to the 2023, something like 193 hedge funds had already relocated out of New York into other states like Texas, Florida, and California. So they had I don't want to say small migration because it was a large migration of people getting out of Texas before this. I really want to see how big of an, he's already talking about upping the state tax by 2% on because 1% of the people pay for 48% of their budget. And it's nearly, what was it? $100 billion US is what their budget is. So I really want to see how many people just out, I'm done. So that's what I'm really interested to see. I think we'll see the real figures in about 3 months' time.
It's going to be fascinating. I think what really was a bit of an unknown for the Texans was the border. Before Trump got in, there was a lot of illegals running across the border there, and it was a bit of a gateway for them coming through Mexico. And that's a bit of an unknown for people who would want to relocate there as to the safety of living there. I'm going to later in the show how this all streams back to Australia and why this is important. But for now, let's have a look at Charlie Kirk, a video where he was talking about his concerns in relation to what was going on in New York and this particular gentleman, Zoran, who has taken office.
The rise of Mamdani should be it's a coming attraction of what is coming next.
Who's Mamdani?
Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim communist that is running for mayor in New York City, who obviously there's a whole rabbit hole we can go down there. He just looks kind of be like central casting, and his ideas are terrible. He wants the city to run the grocery stores, all that. But I think everyone's kind of, not everyone, but most people are missing the point of really what this is. This is yet another distress signal by young people to say, hey, if you're not going to fix our life economically, we're going to get very radical politically.
So
I'm just saying, haven't they?
yeah, well, it's really interesting how that plays out. Now, let's put this aside for a second. We're getting different cultural ideologies colliding together in what has been seen as the center of capitalism. Okay, this is the cultural kind of aspect that's going on here. And of course, there's going to naturally be some conflicts when that occurs. And this is why people are getting very, very, worked up about this. And if you look at the track record of what's been going on as far as London is concerned, people are looking at that where Mayor Khan has been running that. And the reports are that the city has been getting worse and worse as things go on. And I'd like to just point this out, that this video really, really shows his response is really interesting in this, in relation to the expectations of what that might mean as far as New York is concerned. Have you left me, Travis? We'll keep going. All right, we'll keep going.
I'm still here, but for some reason my camera's decided not to want to be here, and it's just like had this problem.
That's okay.
So if I was in Vietnam, I wouldn't have this problem.
Let's have a look at London Mayor Khan's response when he heard the news that this gentleman has gone in New York.
Parallels that New York and London have, and there are many parallels that Zohran and I have. And congratulate the city of New York. They've chosen in a bitterly contested election hope over fear, unity over division, and I'm already experiencing the ripples of hope and happiness coming from his victory.
Now you've got to remember, this is the London mayor who Trump refuses to meet and would not even have him at the state dinner when he recently went and saw the king over there in England. And it's quite telling, as capitalism and communism kind of head towards here. And there's a twist to this, because the Muslim community is mostly being very conservative, okay? And for the most part has been interpreted that way. And now you've got the Muslim communities, they're saying, well, these people are communists and socialists and this sort of stuff. So in terms of the twist here is very, very interesting. You've got to go, well, what's going on? Because it's not trending how it normally would. And if you look at what's actually happened to London, I mean, many people are saying what's happened to London is tragic, because you go there, you don't feel like you're in London anymore. You feel like you're in a completely different state. And he says, it's like, I heard the comment recently where someone said, who actually was Muslim, said to me, look, when you go to London, you want to feel like you are in London. You don't want to feel like you're in another different country. But putting all that cultural stuff aside, the implications are, what is communism here doing to these places and states? And that's the big issue that I want to talk about, the socialism. Because we have seen historically that these don't work, that prosperity doesn't occur with these kind of ideologies. We've seen the great experiment of what happened in the USSR. We saw the great experiment of East Germany versus West Germany. We've seen the great experiment of North Korea versus South Korea. Okay, how'd that work out? Have people prospered under those regimes? And the evidence shows that it's too much power for others. When the hardworking people have to share their wealth, people who've been responsible and gone out, and then they're required by a third party to, now you've got to go and share this with other people. And this is where the whole breakdown of the argument that the rich, we need to tax the rich, it falls apart. Because, it sounds great to those who don't have it, and it might win votes in the political landscape. But the reality is that, do you want to do a lot of work and not get credit for it, and then people ride on the curtails of your hard work? I'll give you an example. When I was in university, we had to have a group production. I worked in film and television at the time, and we were doing those units, and we were getting a situation where we had to put these productions together. Now, I worked my backside off to put those productions together. And what occurred was that some of the students weren't working very hard, but we were, as a group, going to get a collective mark for the work that we'd put in that semester. The difficulty that I wrestled with was I can work my backside off, the rest of the team slack off, and we're still going to share the same results. And they're riding on the curtails of what I'm doing. Now, is communism any different in this situation? And as a team, you've got to pull together and go, well, what do we want? But the human tendency is, well, if somebody's going to supply something that I need, why would I work hard for it? Okay. And this is where things like welfare fall down. Welfare should be ideally a leg up for a period of time until somebody can get back on their feet and be self-sustainable once again. That's the idea, not ongoing forever. And we've got this socialistic aspect that's creeping into our society that says this, and this is the big danger of it. If we have a look here at the ties between the London mayor and, you know, jumping on quickly and congratulating the New York mayor, look at this, guys. What is this saying to you? Is New York a financial hub? Yes. Is London a financial hub? Yes. Both of these places are big financial hubs across the Western world. Isn't it ironic? And I want to point out this one picture. Look who else jumped up and said, hey, congratulations. I want to show you this. It's like this. Alex Soros jumps up and says, so proud to be a New Yorker. The American dream comes true. Congratulations, Zoran Mamdani. Okay. I would argue that the globalists, those kind of agendas, the Soroses and that sort of stuff, would they be the ones that are positioning these politicians in these financial hubs? The questions have to be asked. If they're funding it, if those trails are there, you've got to remember, guys, that in many, many situations, according to the globalists, that the politicians are merely the puppets, right?
Spot on.
They want influence, or they want money, or whatever it is, whatever agenda they bring to the table. The billionaires can basically go, all right, well, here's the money to do it. But of course, it's never a free ride. All right. If we're going to give you X amount of millions of dollars to do all this, then, well, guess what? We expect you to do this, this, and this for us. And so that's the situation that we're finding here. Now, the United States was too big to influence from outside. So what's happened, I believe, is many of these influences have come inside to internally disrupt the system of the United States, which stands for freedom, liberty, and justice. Well, if you can't control, and let's face it, America is the symbol of those ideals, okay, those political ideals. And so what's happened was it was too hard to influence from outside, so they had to do it from inside. And this is what we're watching. Now, why is this significant? Well, I don't believe that Trump is one of those typical politicians. He came from outside. He wasn't there to really get a political career and line on those curtails of becoming famous and living off that, like many of the career politicians have done. He was a self-made billionaire, all right? He could fund his own political campaigns, which in the United States are extremely expensive. So he comes from outside, and I think he's a true patriot that wanted to influence America and bring back its freedoms that was rapidly losing. Economic freedoms, negotiation. I mean, for years, you heard him on Oprah talking about the inequalities of how tariffs were happening, you know, trade deals across the globe, and how this was weakening the American life, and how America then went on education campaigns while president, how we were better off with tariffs, not income tax, all this stuff. This is not normal political behavior. The socialists want to tax more and take it from people in the population to fund their own agendas. This is not normal political behavior. And so you've got to look at this and go, this doesn't line up. The key is to ask questions, why?
Spot on. So did you want to get into the next video now? And you can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you fine. So what's
beautiful.
happened here is, of course, this situation creates more opportunity. So other states within the United States have said, right, well, we want to attract a lot of that money. Now, Texas has been doing that, but have a look at what Governor Bill Lee, he's the governor of Tennessee, has to say. Check this one out.
Governor Bill Lee. In light of the recent election results, I thought it might be a good time to remind you that Tennessee is the best state in the country for doing business. If you are a New York City business owner and you don't like the direction your city has headed, I have a message for you that Tennessee is open for business. We have one of the strongest economies in the country. We have one of the lowest tax bases in the country. We have a workforce that is ready for any industry, a workforce that is ready to meet the needs of your company. And our Department of Economic and Community Development is ready to help you make a move right now. In fact, Tennessee is one of the most moved to states for families, for people, for companies from around the globe, because we believe that opportunity and security and freedom are important for everyone. We also believe in the power of law enforcement, by the way, and we understand that the men and women who keep our families, keep our communities safe, need to be supported, and we do so in our state. I want you to know that if you're looking for an opportunity, you've found one in the state of Tennessee. We are here. Our way of life, our music, our culture, our food, our hospitality, and our business-friendly environment might just be right for you. We are open for business.
It's a big statement, isn't it? We are open for business. Come and bring, because they know that these people who have wealth in New York are absolutely loaded. And it's like, great, come and do it here. We will make a very friendly place for you to do your business and keep making great wealth.
Memphis, that's Tennessee as well, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
One of the fastest growing return on investments for properties actually in America is actually Memphis and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
and of course, then
if
you've got
you're
Nashville
looking,
in Tennessee.
yeah.
You've got Nashville in Tennessee as well, the country music home of the world.
Mm.
So yeah, where I've been to Tennessee, it's great. It's fantastic.
So I'm doing a lot of
It's interesting
research.
too. It's been reported that there was a 15-page spread in the New York Times advertising real estate in Florida. So the Florida, how do you say it? Floridorian real estate operators see huge opportunity. Let's attract that wealth down here. And of course, Florida is one of the red states, the conservative states. They're seeing opportunity to say, do business here. Guys, we'll open the door. Look at all these beautiful homes that we have. And of course, where is the most famous house probably in Florida? Mar-a-Lago. So, you know, it's quite ironic how everybody's going, right, this has occurred. People are saying it's terrible. And other people going, there's so much the American psyche. Let's see opportunity.
Spot on. One of the things I found really fascinating with Memphis is the ability to flip properties is huge. Like the construction relate, like what do you call it? The regulations that you have for repairing properties, you can just do most of the work yourself if you are a handyman. The cost of laborers and the trades aren't exorbitant like they are in Australia. So the ability to flip properties in Tennessee is actually very, very possible. It is a very plausible business arrangement, and the rental returns on the rent side of things is actually half decent as well. So there's a lot of Tennessee is one of the states that I'm looking at buying property in. So I'll just leave it at that because I'm not allowed to give financial advice.
No, you say you're researching and looking at it, but yeah, it's interesting. And of course, I think there's going to be a lot of waves in the markets moving forward. I think what we're seeing here is these are strategic moves from the left to try and, you know, in terms of the financial hubs of the world, London and New York, to basically cause disruption there. Now, why would this be an interesting play? Well, again, people vote when they can't afford food on the table and all that sort of stuff. They'll vote out of a state of panic. And this is a historical move. This is not just something that's happened recently. You look at history, you study history. When there is any threat of instability and crisis, that is where the move goes, where it's like, okay, let's create a great crisis here, and then we'll take their freedoms this way by putting this legislation through. It's happened time and time again. Now, I think, and I'm expecting disruptions in the markets to happen. Is that a scary thing? No, because I look at that and I go, right, where are the opportunities? Because maybe I can get certain assets at bargain prices in the next move down and swoop and profit from that. That's how the filter is. Rather than reacting with fear, it's positioning myself in such a way that I can, you know, take opportunity here. But it's really, really. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to quickly jump in here. Like you were talking about the opportunities. So I'm huge on opportunities, and I'm putting together. It will probably be another 3 months before it comes out. I'm trying to put together a bit of a series to look at the different little side hustles you can do to earn a bit of money that you can do on top of working a full-time job and stuff like that, so you can get started into different things. I'm actually going to go try them. I'm done doing for a couple of months and say, hey, this is my results, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like, this is what worked for me. New York is actually a tax lien state. So if you're not sure what that is, go Google it. There's a heaps of videos out there about what tax liens are. But before you do anything, go check it out first. That's a carton, Derek. But yeah, it's just there's going to be an insane amount of opportunities, especially around the property in New York coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is something that's definitely worth having a look at. And to be honest with you, I'm with you. How would you feel about doing a tax lien video with us, Derek?
Yeah, let's talk about that later. That's a complex one. It's a really complex
It is, isn't it? It's a curly one. That'd be a
Yeah.
video on its own. So anyway, so if people do want to learn more about things like that and you'd like us to cover it, hey, put a comment in the chat and we'll definitely look into it. So we do have a couple of other videos here. There was one we were going to watch, but it had some very, very curly subject matter into it. And I don't know if you've covered it while I wasn't here, but we're seeing people like Alex Soros saying how great it is. You're seeing all these other people saying how great it is, but then you're getting people like Governor Bill Lee saying, you know what, if you don't like New York, come to Tennessee, come to Texas, come to Florida. I have seen the video. I'll let you talk about who did it, but there was a lady who was living in the West End in London. She started living, from my understanding, she was living there before the Muslim mayor took over. And she's just talking about now she's not there anymore. And what was actually happening. Now, you've got to remember, West End is one of the most prestigious and the richest, most affluent areas in all of London. She was saying it's an absolute hellhole. That's paraphrasing. She was talking about knifing, stabbings. Your phone, you would always have a cord onto your arms just because it gets stolen. And she was talking about the problem of having one group of people that sees you as lesser humans trying to rule over someone, and then having a government system saying, oh, no, they're fine. It's just it's a teething issue. It's fine. Just ignore it. Let them go. Don't do anything about it. And then taking it further, I don't know if you saw this, Tommy Robinson also got off on all charges. So he's also back on the streets, no longer considered a terrorist and all that sort of stuff. So I have grave concerns for New York in the short term, but I think there is massive opportunities as well. Derek, taking that chick's video into account, how far do you think this is actually going to go?
Well, I think it could backfire on the left here, big time, right? And that's what I suspect in the long-term scheme of things. Yes, would I be happy about this if I was living in New York City? No. Would I be happy if I had real estate ownership in London and that sort of thing? No. Because, of course, the valuation of your property has got to go down, very, very likely, especially if crime increases. And this is the problem with socialism and communism, right? As the taxes increases and productivity moves and economies are not being attracted, investors are not being attracted anymore. In fact, they're exiting and leaving out. Well, rental rates have to come down in that because supply and demand shows it's an economic rule. There's more oversupply than in demand right now. What happens
there's there's a bit of a flip side to that as well, especially if you have a Muslim mayor like they have in London. They've gone, oh shit, we need more people to fill out these houses, so they just flood in even more people coming in. You get even more social issues. The houses get trashed even faster, and of course not all migrants that come in are bad, but a majority of them are, and they're just not flooded with more and more people.
Well, the discussion certainly on multiculturalism hasn't fully been had, and I think when you're colliding different ideals together and views of the world, there are going to be automatically problems there, just culturally and politically alone, as we're seeing. And this is all coming up very, very much because people are saying this has been my home for how many decades, and I don't agree with these values that are coming into society now. And this is the discussion. And the problem is with having these kind of discussions, the left want to label you as racist for saying that. And that's not reasonable debate. That's not intellectual response or common sense response. It's like, hey, we're trying to avoid problems here between, different cultural groups and this sort of stuff. Can we have the discussion, please, and make an informed decision here? before any problems arise. But no, well, let's just rush it through. And it's a policy of disruption that really concerns me. That we're not going to seek public debate about this. And if you do debate, you do dissent from this, well, we're going to label you and discredit you. And that is not that. It's an old play again that tries to control, and that is not freedom. That is just manipulation from the core.
Okay, I am keeping an eye on the time. We do have 2 more videos that you wanted to go through. Did you want to jump into those now?
Yeah, let's have a look at this. And then I'd like you to expand on some of the companies that have moved money out of New York to where this lady is saying they're going.
All right, let's have a look at this one. Here's the first one.
Turning into Y'all Street. That's all it took to trigger a bunch of liberals. They are all up in my comments telling me that I am wrong, that the New York Stock Exchange is absolutely not moving from New York to Texas, that it is just the electronic portion that's moving to Texas. Darling, that is 95% of the business. That is the trade, the data, the fees, and the money coming to Texas. Not to mention the servers haven't even been in New York since 2010. They're in Jersey. But you know what this whole thing reminds me of? Do y'all remember back when people would stick a phantom hood ornament on a Chrysler 300 and say that it looked like a phantom?
No, it looked like a Chrysler 300.
The badge here still says New York Stock Exchange, but the engine that runs it is being built in Texas. Because you see, when the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange, Intercontinental Exchange, filed for its relocation in February of this year, that is not just a cosmetic thing. That is a legal charter, regulatory authority, and trade engines being set up in Texas. It essentially leaves the Wall Street in New York looking like the King of England. A crown with no power. So here we are again. I was right. Liberals were wrong. Nanny, nanny, boo-boo. This was fun. Have a day.
Nanny, nanny, boo-boo. That's a great summation to an economic video. How would it feel if I said at the end of this, nanny, nanny, boo-boo?
I just think she's awesome. Like,
Yeah,
she backs it up with stats, figures. She shows the documentation. I just think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So the money is moving out. And this is the thing that people don't realize is that stock exchanges are very much electronic. They're run by computers now, digits moving around. The money is just parked there, but it's not physical, guys. It's just on an exchange, right? Assets and shares, these things are highly liquid. In other words, they can be, sold off very, very quickly and moved very, very quickly. And so this is what has to be recognized here is where is the wealth going? And this is what I call a great wealth transfer. I'm talking about this at a seminar on Thursday night. And we can see that playing out and the opportunities that are presenting in this wealth transfer. And so this is what's really, really exciting. Let's have a look at the next one where she clarifies some of the stances that she just made in this next video.
This bears repeating again, but since you guys think I am so wrong about this New York Stock Exchange and you are the educated party, then can somebody please explain to me what a charter is? Oh, that's right. It's the legal license that tells the government where your business is based and who gets to tax and regulate it. And before February 2025, where was the charter for the New York Stock Exchange listed? Oh, that's right. 11 Wall Street, New York, New York. Okay, but it's just the electronic portion from Chicago that's moving to Texas. But yet, the relocation is for the charter to Dallas, Texas. So they moved the address out of New York and the business out of Chicago, all to Texas. Because remember, that electronic portion in Chicago, that is 95% of all of the New York Stock Exchange trading. The data, the fees, the transactions, and the actual money. So just let me put that into perspective for you. Texas already hosts companies worth $3.7 trillion on the New York Stock Exchange. If roughly 95% of exchanges activity now falls under the Dallas charter, that is around $3.5 trillion in business rate shifting to the south, leaving maybe $185 billion tied to the New York's old charter base. Listen, y'all cannot claim to be the educated party and be this dumb. This was fun. Have a day.
I want to just point one thing out of that, and that's she talks about Chicago as well. Chicago's had massive social problems as well, massive crime statistics. And so, yes, there's a Chicago exchange as well. So the money moving from New York, from Chicago into Texas is just massive. It's really capitalism drawing itself and the money to where it can flourish. And that is the funny thing. This is one of the biggest laws about finance that you can learn is money goes to where it will best be looked after. That rule plays out. So if you're frivolous with your money, well, guess what? It will slip through your fingers and you won't have much to show for it. But those who watch their money and where it's going and are disciplined where it goes, more is attracted to it because, of course, investments can go in and great wealth can be created from that. And this is just playing out on a bigger scale here where money is better looked after in a state that says, hey, we're open for business and we're going to give you less regulation, better tax breaks, come and do business here. And look what's happening.
Yep. So here's a few stats for people between early 2020, the start of 2020 and early 2023, 158 investment firms have relocated their headquarters out of New York into different areas. So that was listed by CoStar.com. That equates to $993 billion in assets alone. So this is just hedge funds. These are the people that trade on, investment firms. These are the people that trade on other people's behalf. So this is all the mum and dads, the superannuation accounts, 401ks. That's like our superannuation accounts. So between August 2017 and August 2022, 291 industrial and manufacturing companies left New York State, which is nearly 12,000 jobs. So this is also normal everyday jobs that are moving out of New York just because of what's going on the socialist front. Now, taking that even further, I said, you know what? How many actual companies have moved? I couldn't find an exact figure, but I did find a rough estimate. So according to a study by CBRE, 561 publicly listed companies have announced they're relocating their HQ headquarters out of expensive properties in New York to cheaper regions. Now, how many of them are actually going totally out of New York State? I don't know because it's really hard to work out. But there's a massive trend for large companies to get themselves and their controlling bodies out of New York. So this isn't a new thing. This rot has been happening for, as you can see, like 2017, I think that was the earliest one. This has been going on at a trickle pace for a while, and it's been getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And I think Madani is just, instead of having a little drip coming out of pipe, I think he's just come along with a sledgehammer and smashed the pipe, and you just watch how many people are going. Now, the other thing that I also did while we're listening to those videos, I looked at how many people are selling their houses. Again, we're a little bit early to get the figures out, but there were a couple of interviews that were done over the last couple of weeks where a lot of real estate agents or brokers that they're called in America are saying that they're seeing a sharp increase of people putting their houses onto the market. It's sort of like there was a massive decline of people selling up leading into the election. I think they were waiting to see which way it would go. And now that the results are confirmed, they're going, bang, let's pull the pin, let's get out before the property markets crash.
Right. And that's really going to be a disruptor as far as the American housing market is concerned. This is huge because it will affect, interest rates. It'll affect what the Fed does, all this kind of disruption. It's got huge implications. And this is what I want to point out too, is when Albanese went over to the White House recently, they negotiated on the US a commitment of putting the $1 trillion of industry on the New York Stock Exchange through superannuation. So your superannuation, well, not necessarily the New York Stock Exchange, but it could actually invest in the United States on those markets. So this is going to influence your superannuation retirement in a secondary manner, right? If America is, if Albanese is committed, your superannuation fund manager's money to be invested on US markets, and it's moving from New York to Texas and from Chicago to Texas. This is a big influence.
Good thing.
Yeah,
that's a great thing. Like, $1 saved is $1 earned. Like this, I cannot see a bad thing about this one. I personally, I trade on the New York stock market. Maybe I should start calling it the Texas stock market. But the commissions are tiny. Like per trade is about 80 cents a trade, which is whatever. When I tried to trade on the Australian stock market, I get charged $2.20 per trade.
And that's at retail. We're not even talking about industry level. It's even cheaper on industry level than what you're quoting because they're doing so much volume and millions and billions of dollars. They get prime prime coverage there with the banks and this sort of stuff. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's making the Australian stock exchange a lot less competitive and attractive to investors when these kind of deals are going on.
So I don't know if you're actually aware of this or not. Because people are moving out of New York, they're saying like it's just too expensive doing other things. Yeah, they don't look at other states. But one thing I'm noticing is America really wants to start looking around the world as well. So they're doing trade deals with South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, and all that sort of stuff. In May this year, Vietnam finally completed. It's actually open for trade at the moment. So Vietnam actually hired South Korea to create the Vietnamese stock exchange. So you can now actually trade Vietnamese companies on their own stock exchange. So I'm seeing all these other smaller countries, like what's going on in Nepal now, what they've done with their government. All these other new industries are starting to open up as well. So I think this is a great thing around the world. I think people are opening their eyes up to the possibility of actually doing business with America and around America and all around the world. I think this is a great thing. I think having a Muslim mayor in New York, which is arguably one of the most famous cities in the world, seeing its rapid decline into hell, I think this is going to be a massive eye-opener. I think this is going to wake up a lot of people who were sitting on the fence. Oh, no, it's not that bad. And then you see it and you go, well, actually, no, it is bad. But the other thing I can see, with everyone getting out, I can see the left turning around saying, oh, it's because all these people fled, that's why it didn't work. Because they never hold themselves to accountability. And that's my big sad thing. I hate to see people get blamed for something that they didn't do.
Well, what you got to ask the cause and effect. Right. If that's the case, then why did all the money start moving before this happened? Back down to Texas. Why is that? What was going on in Texas that attracted them and was more
New York State's always been blue.
Yeah. So and the fascinating thing again, London's where the old money is. Okay. So and the deals that have been going on across the Atlantic of late has been phenomenal to watch. Even on the silver markets, that's been incredible to watch. A shortage of silver in London, and a bounty of it in the United States. And so a lot of people are doing the arbitrage trade of moving silver and getting a $2 difference on the prices to buy it in New York and move it to London and then make $2 on the same amount per ounce. It's just crazy what's going on.
Well, that's not a bad way to make money. Buy low, sell high. So the other one I found really, really, really fascinating at the moment, and we've run out of time to cover this one, but again, maybe we'll cover it next week. I think it's BHP and Rio Tinto are now trading with China in the Chinese yuan. They're no longer they are still using it for a majority of the trades, but China's starting to push more and more people into the yuan. So they've just signed an agreement that 30% of all their transactions will be done on the Chinese yuan instead of the USD.
Yeah, it'd be interesting as they move away from the US dollar. And of course, this is where I believe a new financial system is ushering in. There's so many different components to this, but it's all heading towards this. Yeah. And there's great opportunity in that new system because, right now, the whole system is broken. It really is. America cannot keep the trillions of dollars that's in debt and sustain that when it's spending more in interest than it is on its annual budget for military expenditure. It's just nuts.
Okay, so just quickly, I have to thank Derek for all the knowledge he's imparted to me. I've done most of his courses now. They're absolutely phenomenal. So he does have a live event for the people in West Australia on this Thursday. It's Thursday, right?
This Thursday.
It's
Thursday.
So So he's put the link into a short URL. So shorturl.at/UP77N. The link is in the description. Make sure you go to it. No, that's not a scam bot link. It's just a short URL. Just makes things tiny. Good to see on the screen. Alternatively, if you do want to communicate with Derek direct through his website, it's Blue Sky Factory, BLU skyfactory.com.au. So Derek, once again, tech issues. I hate Australian internet. Wouldn't have this problem in Vietnam. But yes, been another good show. Loved it. I love those videos out there, and I think that chick is absolutely hilarious. Same time next
thanks
week.
for putting them on my radar, Travis. It was great to see the way you summarize it. It was good.
Sometimes doom scrolling does come up with a few gems. So So you can find benefits in all sorts of stuff. So anyway, this has been The Greater Wealth with Derek Whittaker. My name is Travis Carter. This is edgeradioaustralia.com. Make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube, Facebook, and all those other different platforms like Twitch. All right, we'll talk soon, and we'll see you guys next week. Help if I press the right button.